We're cruising down the fantastic E4 Autobahn just south of Frankfurt on the way to Hockenheim Ring and the German Grand Prix. The E4 is to Europe what Interstate 80 is to the USA. I could take it from where I live just north of Copenhagen, Denmark, all the way to my grandfather's old village in the southernmost part of Italy. Now, for the majority of such a trip, I could cruise at nearly 90 miles an hour and be perfectly within the law. And here, on the German Autobahn, with excellent driving conditions, the 190 kilometers we're doing, that's nearly 118 miles an hour, is perfectly legal. The average speed of the drivers around me is a very quick but safe 90 to 100 miles an hour. In Germany, it's a quite different approach to safety while driving. The strong emphasis is put on driving correctly with a very high level of concentration at all speeds. Here, the most serious violations are like blocking the passing lane. That's number one. Not wearing your seatbelt, drunken driving, following too close, or failing to signal a lane change. Not just speeding, but poor driving is the emphasized danger here. I think I explained it best to a highway patrolman just outside of beautiful Breckenridge, Colorado, when I said, in Europe, it's a privilege to drive, and you're right to do it quickly. He reminded me where we were and said, in Colorado, it's your right to drive, and no one is privileged to do it quickly. Well, the German population deals with and enjoys their privilege of high-speed driving and performance automobiles every day. Remember, this is the very industrialized nation that produces some of the finest road cars in the world. Porsche, Mercedes-Benz, Opel, Volkswagen, Audi, and BMW are all manufactured within 150 miles of Hockenheim Ring. No one more than the competitive Germans appreciate maximum performance automobiles and the people who drive them well. That is why the national impact of this international motorsports event is so high. Over a 3-day period, nearly 170,000 fans will pass through the gates of this exciting and challenging Hockenheim Ring facility. For those who can't attend on Sunday afternoon, all televisions will be tuned to their Grand Prix championship event. That great national pride will be pulling for a German victory via the BMW or TAG Porsche powered cars. This is John Bizignano in a very active Hockenheim Ring paddock. I'll be your host along with Simon Taylor for this ESPN Auto Racing 84 coverage of the German Grand Prix for Formula One race cars. Over the next 90 minutes, Simon and I will be presenting the complete Grand Prix story, including technical reports, driver interviews, all the latest F1 updates, plus the fantastic Grand Prix race action. So please join us after these short messages for the 11th round of the 1984 season and a detailed look at how Formula One helps the development of safety and efficiency in road cars. We'll be right back. Join us. Automobile racing is as old as the invention itself. From the earliest days, creative engineers and daring drivers have teamed up to squeeze the last tenth of a second from hopefully an improved design, always looking for a better way to achieve higher speeds and lower lap times. From the beginning, manufacturers have supported the sport with millions and millions of dollars. If used wisely, this investment brings an excellent return by providing the most economical research and development process possible while creating a strong marketing base. Today in Formula One, you have the involvement of more major international automobile factories than in any other form of the sport. Renault, Ferrari, Honda, Lotus, Ford, Alfa Romeo, and Porsche are all participating at different levels, but for the same results: to push the design of their road cars ahead in the quickest, most cost-effective way possible. If they didn't use motor racing as the toughest proving ground for testing their new ideas, the expenditure of time and money for trying to gain the same knowledge would be astronomical. The end products are highly improved road cars with every element of chassis, suspension, body shape, and motor becoming more safe and economical, even fun, for us to use in everyday driving. How much of a factory's racing effort goes into its road cars? Well, with a sleek Lotus or Ferrari, you might think quite a lot. But what about a car we all might enjoy? Who better to ask than Jean Sage, team manager of Renault Sport? Jean, relative to the influence of future designs of Renault road cars, how much communication is there between Renault Sport and the factory?
There's much communication. You know, there's a very strong relationship between Renault Formula One team and the production factory. I think this is the best test bench you can have to test all the new materials and the new, technical research on the Formula One car. For example, at the moment we are testing all what could lighten a car and save fuel. For example, the disc brakes, which are saving about 20 to 25 pounds on a car, and testing also the intercoolers for the turbo cars. We can test really a lot of things. It saves time and money, and it improves both racing cars and road cars.
Another fact is that an engineer working in the factory on road cars, it must give him a great amount of enthusiasm to know that Renault Sport is out there against all the other factories in the world on different racetracks all over the world. It must give him a sense of pride in his own work.
Yes, of course. All the engineers are much concerned by what we are doing. We are called every day to come to the tracks to see what we are doing. So, and it gives Renault, a bigger name in technology around the world. And all the company, the 200,000 people of the company around the world are much concerned about what we are doing. We have internal information papers, technically and also promotionally, to promote and to give details of what we are doing inside the company. And not only the engineers are concerned, but all the people.
Right down to the sales force and everything.
Yes, that's, it gives more enthusiasm to everybody, including the salespeople, to sell their products, which is improved by the Formula One test bench.
Well, a very improved product is the Renault Fuego. Now, here's a car that has disc brakes, independent suspension, stabilizing bars, front and rear. The engine is fuel-injected, turbocharged, intercooled overhead cam. I mean, all those elements of that road car, it's the same elements you have in your F1 car.
Yes, that's true. All the details you give, and plus the aerodynamics also is very good on the Fuego. And this is, the results of what we have been doing in Formula One since 1977, and in Formula 2 before 1975, 76.
Jean, the world is very interested in getting the most fuel-efficient cars at the moment, too. Now, in Formula One, last year you were allowed to use 250 liters, and you've been cut down to 220 liters for the '84 season. Now, this must be an area where your research is really helping to get the road cars further down the road on the same fuel, or less fuel.
Yes, we had 30 liters less at the beginning of the season. That gave us some problems, but they are solved now, and we have done a lot of improvement on fuel consumption, really. And we are on the road. We were already the champions of the fuel consumption with our small cars. That's, really on both sides we are trying to have the best efficiency in road cars and in Formula One.
The technical feedback begins with the Formula One driver. Patrick Tom Bay has driven for Ferrari and Renault in the last 2 seasons. How does he feel about this all-important collaboration?
As a driver, I'm just racing with the equipment they're giving me, and trying to push it to its limits. Therefore, we are learning something from it. But the technicians of the teams are indeed learning something. There's a lot of new composite materials involved in racing now. Carbon discs, carbon fibers for the construction of the chassis, construction of the aerodynamics airfoils. special, very exotic materials for suspension parts, and all that in the long term is going back towards production cars. As far as the engine is concerned, yes, electronics is getting a big development because we have to consume less and have more horsepower, so therefore our electronicians are really working hard. Turbos are also being developed at a high rate. They have to be more reliable, they have to produce more boost and be stronger. So yes, in the medium to long run, I'm sure the technician will learn something, pass it on to the industrial technician, the one that are designing the road cars, and then the people buying those cars will eventually benefit from our racing experience.
Now, not only the huge manufacturers are involved in automobile racing, but virtually every product in the automobile aftermarket has something to prove by supporting the sport. Everything from motor oil to shock absorbers, spark plugs, tires, fan belts, brake pads are all out there trying to achieve technical superiority while meeting their target market in one of the most economical and demanding ways possible. Now, if you still don't believe that automobile racing makes a serious contribution to your road car, every time you look in the rearview mirror, remember the fact that this device was first time ever used at the Indianapolis 500 back in the very early days. Stay with us after this short break when Simon Taylor returns with the qualifying story here at the German Grand Prix.
The Hockenheim track has been the home of the German Grand Prix ever since 1977, when it superseded the no longer suitable Nürburgring. It's a circuit which has long straights, even though nowadays they are divided by tight chicanes. And so one of the most important ingredients for a quick qualifying lap round the Hockenheim ring is a strong engine. A further problem in final qualifying has been rain. It's rained during the morning, the track was still wet when the final hour of qualifying began, and it's only in the last 10 minutes that the circuit is dry enough to set a really quick lap. So in that last 10 minutes, the track is very, very crowded indeed, as all the fastest men in Grand Prix racing try to set a perfect qualifying time and get the all-valuable pole position. And the man who does it better than anybody else and gets the pole is the current World Championship leader, Alain Prost.
A good last 10 minutes of qualifying for you, Alain.
Yes, we had to wait the last minute because the track was not completely dry, and my car was much better than yesterday because I got some problems with the engine yesterday, and I was waiting for the right moment, but it was a perfect lap.
Alain, it must have been a perfect lap. Everyone was trying to knock Elio De Angelis off pole. You go out there with 10 minutes left, and you go a full second quicker than anyone has ever done here in qualifying with the new regulations. Where does that time come from?
I think the track was quick anyway because it was running before, the weather was a bit more cool, and my car was fantastic. I had a good engine, the chassis was fantastic, and I did a good lap that we can do sometimes. No traffic at all, so that's why I was so quick, but sometimes you can't explain exactly how you do a time like that.
Well, maybe the part you can't explain is a mental build-up for such a thing. You have to prepare yourself to go out there and risk it all.
Yes, exactly. I was prepared to do a good time because yesterday it was a bit difficult for me, and after the Brands Hatch race everybody said, okay, Nicky is going to be in front of you and to push me, and I said yes, he was pushing me anyway, but today with a perfect car, I had to prove that I was quicker, and I went on the track. I was sure to get the pole position. Sometimes you are like that.
Now, leading the World Championship, I know it's difficult to compare, but you were in the same position last year. Do you feel more secure at this point in the championship than you did last year?
I'm more cool because my car is very good this year, and I think it should be okay until the end of the year. Last year, the same stage, I was not quite sure about about the performance of my car and about the reliability of my car. And this year, I'm confident in my team, so I am more cool. And I think if I get some problems like last week in Brands Hatch, that's race, that's life. I can do nothing, but I try to get more easy.
second quickest on the grid is the man who this year has been the most reliable runner of all in Grand Prix racing. He's finished every race this year, and he's scored championship points in all but one. Elio De Angelis with the Renault-powered Lotus. Talking there to Peter Wall, his very delighted team manager. A front row starting position for Elio, and perhaps some more championship points tomorrow. Third quickest, another man to be powered by the Renault turbo engine, but his car is all Renault, and this is Derek Warwick, currently 6th in the World Championship and fresh from a good second place at Brands Hatch 2 weeks ago.
Derek, as in Brands Hatch, you must have found the right combination here in Hockenheim. Were you pleased with the qualifying?
Fairly pleased, yes. I think potentially we could have gone a lot quicker. On my quickest lap this afternoon, I passed something like about 7 or 8 cars, so I wasn't particularly happy. Although 2 of those cars I did get a good tow, so it swings and roundabouts. At Brands we changed the car quite a bit with different underbody, and I said that, you know, hopefully at Hockenheim, when we get to know the car a bit better, we should be more competitive, and I think certainly we are.
Well, third place on the grid is very competitive. Now, have you done testing at this track? Did you have a lot of information coming into here?
Nothing. We missed the pre-race test because we were testing at Dijon, and we didn't bother to do it. So, you know, we're more the happier now.
The Renault motors have certainly been doing well in the last 2 days of qualifying. Your race setup, you must have a lot of power going down that straightaway.
Yes, I mean, the engine's producing more power now in a race situation, and with the balance of the car that we had this afternoon, which was quite superb, I think we can look forward to a very, very interesting race.
And your fuel consumption problem also seems to be solved. You're not having to hold off too much.
Yes, I mean, the fuel consumption's a lot better at Brands Hatch. We have plenty of fuel left, and which is quite a hard circuit on fuel. So, you know, hopefully we shouldn't have too many problems tomorrow.
It's good to see your teammate right back up there after his Monaco accident. He seems like he's in top form once again.
Yes, I mean, it's nice because it pushes me that little bit harder, and it extracts more from the team, and, you know, we're able to give more information, so it's good for both of us.
So Patrick Tambay will be one of your biggest competitors tomorrow?
I hope so, because then that would mean that Renault are dominating the race, and I don't mind that at all.
Well, Patrick Tambay was certainly very happy with his second row grid position, 4th fastest, because it's been a difficult season for Tambay. Partway through the year, in the Monaco Grand Prix, he broke a bone in his leg in an unfortunate accident which also involved Derek Warwick, his own teammate. And since then, he's been nursing himself back to fitness. He's now 10th in the World Championship, and now absolutely back on the top of his form. On the third row, a man who's also had mixed luck this season, the reigning world champion Nelson Piquet with the Brabham BMW. Piquet has only finished 2 races this year, and he's won both of them. But the rest of the time, ill fortune and mechanical failures have seen him retire before the checkered flag. Hockenheim, he hopes, will bring him better luck, and there's no doubt at all about the out-and-out speed of the needle-nosed Brabham with its BMW engine. They've also been having a tough season at Ferrari. Michele Alboreto has won 1 race, but has only finished in 1 other. But things are going well for him at Hockenheim, and he's hoping for a better race here.
Michele, are the Ferraris having trouble qualifying up front this year, or are you happy with the way the car runs in qualifying?
Well, I'm not very happy because I prefer to start in the race in the first line.
Yeah.
Yeah. But here we have a problem in the slow part of the track, because in the street lane my car was very good, but in the motodrome we have not grip enough. I hope for tomorrow, for the race.
Well, that can be a problem setting the car up for Hockenheim, because you have the very long straights where you have to try and get maximum speed, and then you come into the stadium with all the turns, and so you have to give something up, right?
Yeah, we need a very good compromise between the top speed and the handling in the middle of the motodrome.
Yeah.
Now I think the best compromise was for the McLarens and for the Lotus.
Yeah. They seem to have found the right combination.
Yeah.
In the race, which would you rather have? The top speed? It's easier to pass with the top speed, or would you...
If you have a very good top speed, yes. But if your top speed is not very good, to be quick in the motodrome is not enough, because it's much better to have a very good top speed.
Well, we hope you have the highest top speed possible tomorrow.
Yeah, me too.
One man that all the experts have been talking about for most of this season is the young Brazilian Ayrton Senna. Last year he was only doing Formula 3. This year second in the Monaco Grand Prix, and a very fast man for Tolman. He's on the 5th row.
Ayrton Senna, a frustrating afternoon here for you at Hockenheim Ring. Yesterday you put your Tolman car in 5th qualifying position, but pushed back to 9th. What was the problem this afternoon?
We couldn't get a clear run. The first lap I had 2 slow cars in front of me, plus the engine running with a lot of misfire. And then I tried even the second lap with the qualifiers, which were not very good anymore, and the engine just wouldn't run. I had a big misfire all the straight line, so I didn't have the power to make a lap.
And of course, at Hockenheim, that's a big problem, because this is a power circuit with long straights, so it must have been very difficult going down there knowing that you were slower than yesterday.
Yeah, but I guess that can happen with anybody, anytime. Unfortunately, it was with me today.
Ayrton, a much improved season, especially with a new car and a new tire company. You must be very pleased with the way things are going, your first season in Formula One.
Yeah, the car is improving all the time, the engine, everything is running better and better. And we are getting more and more competitive, but still not enough to compete with those there on the first positions.
Well, what about next year? This is a time when rumors start going through the paddock of what drivers are going where. Are you going to stay with the Tolman team? What are your plans now for?
I don't know. At the moment. There's still no decisions and nothing clear. We have to wait more time to see what happens.
You're not going to be satisfied until you're in a winning position, though, are you?
I believe if you are doing something like competing, like motor racing, you either do well or forget it.
Well, that's the qualifying story here from Hockenheim and the German Grand Prix. We'll be back with the race story after this short break. Race day at Hockenheim for the German Grand Prix. It's a hot, muggy, overcast day with a hint of rain. An enormous crowd of Germans filling the banked grandstands around the stadium section at the bottom of the circuit, with the long straights feeding out into the forests and feeding back, divided by chicanes. A high-speed testing circuit, 44 laps ahead of the 26 cars and 26 drivers who are now assembling on the grid. And at the front of them, in the privileged pole position, the red and white Marlboro McLaren of this man, Alain Prost, the little hook-nosed Frenchman who has been dominating Grand Prix racing this year. The current championship leader, 34.5 points, just 1.5 points ahead of his own teammate, Niki Lauda. But this is Elio De Angelis, the Italian, who hasn't won a Grand Prix this year, but keeps finishing, keeps scoring points with the very reliable and usually very quick John Player Lotus. On the second row of the grid, the popular Englishman Derek Warwick, who had a great start to the season, then had some bad luck and broke that run of bad luck with a fine second place 2 weeks ago in the British Grand Prix. His own teammate, Patrick Tambay, is alongside him with the other Renault, obviously now totally recovered from the accident at Monte Carlo when he broke a bone in his leg. Fifth fastest on the inside of row 3, the reigning world champion, the brilliant Brazilian Nelson Piquet, with the Brabham that is always so quick. But this year it's only finished 2 races, and Piquet's won them both. Michele Alboreto in the Ferrari, only 1 win so far this year in Belgium, only 2 other points scored all season. Quick when it's going well, not so quick when it's not. But he's further up the grid than he has been recently. And now, with 2 minutes to go before the final warm-up lap, the umbrellas are going up in the crowd because there's a brief shower of rain. It doesn't seem to stay, and everybody is on dry tyres and on a virtually completely dry track as the field goes off on its final warm-up. Prost and De Angelis in McLaren and Lotus respectively at the front, then the two Renaults, Piquet's Brabham and Alboretto's Ferrari. On row 4, it's Niki Lauda, the current runner-up in the World Championship, with the second McLaren, and alongside him the second Brabham of Teo Fabi. Row 5, Ayrton Senna with the Tolman, and René Arnoux with the other Ferrari. Only one Tolman in the race, incidentally, because Johnny Cecotto, the Venezuelan who normally drives the other one, is still in hospital with leg injuries after his crash 2 weeks ago in the British Grand Prix. Row 6 is the Ligier of Andrea de Cesaris, the Italian, and Frenchman Jacques Lafitte in the Williams Honda. Keke Rosberg, the leader of the Williams Honda team, is right back on the 10th row in 19th place on the grid. And another man who's had an unhappy qualifying period is Nigel Mansell. He's 16th on the grid with the second Lotus and has to look at his own teammate, Elio De Angelis, right up on the front row. But that was in qualifying. It's a long race to go, and all sorts of things can happen. There is Mansell, number 12. There is Eddie Cheever, the American, brief glimpse of him in the green Alfa Romeo, number 23. The rest of the field funneling round, trying to get some warmth in their tyres. At the back, the 26th and final qualifier is Stefan Johansson, the Swedish driver, in the Tyrrell, the only non-turbocharged car in the race. So, 26 cars ready. There'll be the usual red light and then green to start the race. It's 44 laps. The tail enders are now in position, the course cars behind. The starter will be looking down with his hand ready on the button. There is the red light. There's the green, the field move away. Oh, and Derek Warwick makes a good start from the second row. In fact, he almost tries to squeeze between the front two cars, but he's tucked in behind De Angelis. Prost is pushed to the outside. It's De Angelis who's got the line in the Black Lotus. De Angelis leads, Prost is second. Warwick must be up there in third place. Tombe is there too in fourth place, I think, with the Renault as they go away from the stadium section on the first long straight that leads into the first of the 3 chicanes from 190 miles an hour on a flying lap. They'll come down to 90 here, and it is De Angelis' Lotus that leads. Prost in second place in the McLaren, Derek Warwick third, Nelson Piquet has come up to fourth in the Brabham, Tombe is fifth, Ayrton Senna is in sixth place, elbowing out Michele Alboretto's Ferrari, which is pushed down to seventh. The rest of the field storming through, and already I got a glimpse there of Keke Rosberg, who is moving up fast after having to start so far back in the Williams Honda number 6. All the field funneling now through the second chicane, which leads onto the Ostkurve, which is a long right-hand curve at the very top of the circuit. Before that chicane was introduced, it was wickedly fast. They still take it at about 135 miles an hour exit speed. It takes them down to this third chicane. 90 miles an hour through there, and still the order is the same. A little puff of smoke there as somebody got a wheel on the dirt. But still, it's Lotus leading from McLaren. It's Elio De Angelis leading from Alain Prost. Nelson Piquet is up there in third place. Derek Warwick hanging back a little bit in fourth place. The field burst into the stadium section, a roar from the crowd, and it's De Angelis who leads on the first of 44 laps round the tight Saxkurve, the tightest corner on the circuit, which leads into the repeated corners round the stadium section. After that left-hander, there are 3 right-handers which will take them onto the start-finish straight. Here they are on the start-finish straight, and still De Angelis leads, weaving to try and shake off the attentions of second man Alain Prost. It's Brabham, Renault, Ayrton Senna is well up, then the Ferrari of Alboretto just ahead of Niki Lauda, who's made a slightly slower start in McLaren number 8, but is now trying to move up, and already we've got a casualty. Marc Surer, the Swiss driver in the BMW-powered Arrows, coming slowly in at the back of the field, as already the leaders are up in the first chicane for the second time. And the first trio seem to be making a little bit of a break, with De Angelis still ahead of Prost and Piquet. Fourth is the first of the 2 Renaults, that's Derek Warwick. And, ooh, a shower of sparks there. That was the Brabham of Piquet bottoming on one of the bumps under braking as they come into the second chicane, and Ayrton Senna is now harrying Patrick Tombe in the second Renault. So Senna trying to move up. There is Keke Rosberg in number 6, and he's made up a whole lot more places. This is lap 2, and Keke Rosberg overtaking people left and right, storming up through the field in the Williams Honda. Here are the leaders in the third chicane. That's Warwick in 4th place. And Ayrton Senna has gone past Patrick Tambay into 5th place. Tambay is 6th, Niki Lauda is 7th. And the leaders moving across to the left of the road to take up their line into the Ajip Curve, which is the start of the stadium section, and this Lotus still leads. It's still Elio De Angelis in front. Keke Rosberg has already passed his own teammate as well as several other cars, but here is the leading trio in the stadium. There's Warwick in 4th place, Senna 5th, Tambay 6th, Niki Lauda 7th. The right-hand Opel Curve onto the start-finish straight, a short straight. They only get into 4th gear briefly here before they come down to 3rd for this right-hand corner, which takes them away from the stadium, up into the forests. Alboreto leading Teo Fabi there in Brabham number 2. And here is the leader. Here is Prost in 2nd place, Brabham number 1 in 3rd place. That's Nelson Piquet, of course. Derek Warwick still there in 4th place. Ayrton Senna 5th, but not apparently catching Warwick at this stage. Tambay 6th, Lauda 7th. Still this great battle at the front between Lotus, McLaren and Brabham. The race well and truly on, and we'll be back with more race action after the short break. Lap 3 of the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim, and still the Italian Elio De Angelis and the British Lotus with the French Renault engine leads. At his heels, the red and white McLaren, the TAG turbo-powered car of the Frenchman Alain Prost. Battles all the way down the field. That's Teo Fabi's Brabham number 2, but at the front it's the leading trio, Lotus, McLaren and Brabham, with Derek Warwick in 4th place in the Renault, but slightly losing touch as the leaders go away for the 4th time up into the forests, and behind them Patrick Tambay has lost another place because the 2nd McLaren of Niki Lauda is moving up all the time after a comparatively gentle start and looks a man to watch. Here's Elio De Angelis in the 1st chicane. Prost follows him through, Piquet follows him through. The big blocks are made of polystyrene, big blocks on the right-hand side of the picture, so that if anybody misses their brakes and hits them, they're nothing like as solid as they look. There goes Lauda, Tambay and Teo Fabi with their own little trio of battling, and this is the 2nd chicane that leads up to the long right-hander, the Ostkurve at the top of the circuit. Hockenheim, a very, very fast circuit indeed, but not as fast as it used to be, because when the speeds became truly horrendous, 3 chicanes were introduced into the circuit. This is the 3rd one that's on the back straight that leads back to the stadium section. The blue flag in the background being given to tell Derek Warwick that Ayrton Senna is behind him in 5th place. Senna started in 9th position on the grid, so the Toleman driver's already moving up very fast indeed. There is Warwick with Senna in his mirrors, and that looks like a battle that's just about to start to develop. Hockenheim, as it so often does, producing splendid battles with the field dividing up into these little groups. The leading trio, the 2-car battle for 4th, that trio there led by Niki Lauda, which is the battle for 6th place. And remember, you get championship points for finishing in the first 6. You get 9 points for a win, 6 points for 2nd, and then it goes 4, 3, 2, 1. And any championship point is precious at this stage of the season, because we're now well into the 2nd half. Away up on the long straight that isn't a straight at all, because it has that right-hand curve in the middle of it, and it has this chicane in the middle of it. And De Angelis still the leader. There you see the gap, 0.8 of a second between De Angelis and Prost. Piquet has dropped back a bit. He is now 1.4 seconds behind Prost, but he's still there to await developments if anything should happen. That's the 1st chicane. On towards the 2nd chicane. Teo Fabi following Niki Lauda there, as Alain Prost and Nelson Piquet follow the leader Elio De Angelis. There's Warwick. Oh, and there's Senna! Senna off! Senna crashes into the Armco barrier at tremendous speed backwards. His right-hand rear wheel has disappeared completely. Off comes the steering wheel to allow Ayrton Senna to get out, and clearly he is unhurt. Oh, but he's clearly very angry and very disappointed. He flings the steering wheel down into the cockpit, and we're going to see it again. The car spinning sideways, forwards and backwards over the grass. That's going into the Ostkurve chicane, which they enter at about 170 miles an hour, and you see there's no rear aerofoil on that car. The rear wing has departed completely, and I would guess it must have simply come adrift, and if your rear aerofoil comes adrift, you lose all the downforce on the back tyres. There was obviously nothing that Ayrton Senna could do about that, and he's jolly lucky to get out completely unhurt, but obviously very annoyed that this Grand Prix that was already going extremely well for him is over. Ayrton Senna then out of the race, which means that that's going to promote Lauda and Tombe, but here's the leading battle again, and this time Alain Prost is close. There's Piquet in third place, Derek Warwick is still fourth, Niki Lauda now fifth, there he is, number 8, with Fabi sixth, and the amazing Keke Rosberg has come up into 7th place, so he is now ahead of Patrick Tombe. He's already 7th, and remember, he started 19th on the grid. So it's a long race. Keke Rosberg storming up through the field in the Honda-powered Williams, the British car with the Japanese engine, and I think he's going to be a man to watch as this race develops. There's Derek Warwick in a slightly lonely 4th place because he can't stay on terms with this leading trio. Elio De Angelis, Alain Prost, and Nelson Piquet. Prost and Piquet, two of the fastest men in Grand Prix racing today. Elio De Angelis, who hasn't been leading Grand Prix, in fact, he's only got one Grand Prix win to his name, which was in Austria almost exactly 2 years ago, but he's clearly driving extremely well today. He's clearly got a lot of power from the Renault-powered Lotus, and he's doing everything that he can to take best advantage of it. Look at him weaving from side to side on the straight to try to throw the pursuing McLaren of Alain Prost out of his slipstream. Prost dogs his wheel tracks every inch of the way, and Prost is sitting there, I would think, very, very threatening indeed. Prost is going to choose his moment to make an attack, and in just the same way, Nelson Piquet, sitting in third place, watching it all. I think Piquet must be saying to himself, I'll wait and see what Prost does about De Angelis before I make my charge. But Nelson Piquet in third place, very, very well placed in this race. A long way to go, and Piquet is just sitting cannily back, trying to decide where he can choose his moment. And still this wonderful three-car battle at the front of the German Grand Prix. De Angelis in the Lotus from Prost in the McLaren, but De Angelis slows. De Angelis has lost the lead. De Angelis has lost his engine. A huge plume of smoke from the back of the Lotus, and indeed flames, fire. So De Angelis has shot his bolt. The engine in the Lotus has blown. We've now got Alain Prost going straight into the lead, but Nelson Piquet is there with him. It's Prost from Piquet. We've now got the old world champion and the current championship leader battling, as poor De Angelis, with now quite a fire from the left-hand bank of the engine. That looks like a blown turbo, and that looks like a new leader. That is the Brabham in front of the McLaren just one chicane later. So Alain Prost has held the lead just for the shortest possible time, because as Elio De Angelis nurses his Lotus back to the start line, we have a new leader in Nelson Piquet. No sooner had Prost taken the lead than Piquet found a way of worming past. He made his attempt. We'd known that he was sitting there, biding his time in third place. A roar from the German crowd as he comes into the stadium section in the lead, because, of course, the BMW engine in the Brabham is a German product. Piquet, a very popular man in Germany, but it's a German-designed engine anyway. The TAG Turbo, originally designed and built by Porsche, in the back of the McLaren. And as I say, a superb prospect here, the reigning world champion and the current championship leader, two of the fastest men in two of the fastest cars in Grand Prix racing, and we've now got a battle of the two top men. Coming up now to the first chicane, and Piquet pulls out a couple of lengths, then on the brakes into the chicane, down to about 90 miles an hour in third gear. Prost closes up, under acceleration, out from the chicane. Piquet pulls away just a little bit, and a long gap as we wait for the new third place man, and the new third place man is Niki Lauda. Niki Lauda too has moved up. Lauda is now third. Derek Warwick is demoted down to fourth. So Lauda, after that comparatively gentle start in the McLaren, has moved to third. We've got Brabham first, McLaren second, McLaren third, and Renault fourth, and Prost making a challenge there, but this is Lauda ahead of Warwick, and Warwick, having been passed by Niki Lauda, has another problem because his mirrors are now full of the ever-charging Keke Rosberg. This is Michele Alboreto in the pits. We heard his Ferrari misfiring earlier. So Michele Alboreto in the pits with the Ferrari. Here's Lauda third, Warwick fourth, charging Rosberg fifth, and here is poor Elio De Angelis nursing the Lotus into the pits, and his race is run. That's his first retirement this year. And look at this battle for the lead, almost nose to tail in the Sachs Curva, as Nelson Piquet leads Alain Prost. They're coming up to lap one of the back markers. I think it's Philippe Alliot in the green and white Ram, and of course, although he keeps well out of the way because he's actually going into the pit lane following Elio De Angelis in, lapping back markers could well start to become a problem for this flying pair at the front. Prost following Piquet, just as he's had to follow De Angelis for so much of this race, but Prost always patient. And Keke Rosberg has passed Derek Warwick. There's Warwick following Rosberg round with Teo Fabi behind them. So now it's Lauda third, it's Rosberg an incredible fourth, all the way up from 19th place on the grid just a few laps ago when the race started. Warwick is demoted to fifth, Teo Fabi is sixth. There you see the gaps, 0.4 of a second between Piquet and Prost. Niki Lauda not far behind, in fact less than 11 seconds behind the leader, so Lauda could well come into the picture. Remember, Niki Lauda regards himself very much as joint number one with Alain Prost, and although Prost is ahead of him in the championship, there's only 1.5 points between them. So who knows, we could have a McLaren versus McLaren battle at the front if Lauda can close on this leading pair. Piquet, who has to drive defensively now, he wants to keep the door shut, he doesn't want to leave any gaps for Prost to go through, but as well as driving defensively, he wants to build up a lead, and it looks as though he's doing that as they come down the long straight that leads back into the Agit Curva and the stadium section. Piquet doesn't have to weave to throw off Prost, because Prost isn't close enough at that point to get into the slipstream underneath the Brabham's rear wing, which will help to suck him along and give him an extra 5 miles an hour of top speed. Piquet using every inch of the road, running a little bit wide as he comes out of the corners, using everything that's there. Alain Prost following him, perhaps a little bit neater and tidier, perhaps preserving his tyres more. And that's Jacques Lafitte. Jacques Lafitte, Keke Rosberg's teammate with the Williams Honda. A plume of smoke, so his engine appears to have gone. De Angelis out. Lafitte out, a glimpse there of a red car coming out of the pits. That will have been Alboreto's Ferrari. There he is, coming out of the pits and following the leaders up the long straight. So Alboreto already at least a lap down after 2 pit stops with his misfiring Ferrari. There's the 3-car battle for third place, with Lauda in the red McLaren at the head of that little queue. Keke Rosberg follows, then it's Derek Warwick, and Teo Fabi is not behind in the Brabham that is 6th. Meanwhile, Nelson Piquet bouncing across the curbs at the chicane with the Brabham leading. So once again, Piquet a little bit wild. Here is Jacques Lafitte still trailing all that smoke, bringing the Williams Honda into the pits. But his teammate, Keke Rosberg, still going very well in 4th place, providing a challenge for McLaren number 8, that's Lauda. But here is McLaren number 7, Prost, providing a challenge for the leader. Nelson Piquet can't relax, and as you see him glance in his mirrors there, saying, now, where is Prost? Is he close enough for me to want to keep the door shut, to keep a tight line coming into the Agit Curva? Well, he wasn't, so Piquet was able to take a wide line into the stadium, which is a little bit quicker, but you don't want to do that when you've got somebody right behind, because they can get up alongside, force you offline, and allow you to lose the lead. But Prost isn't quite close enough at this stage to try antics of that sort. Piquet has 2, 3, sometimes 4 lengths on Prost, and that is just enough to allow him to set about driving a clean, tidy lap and not to have to keep the road blocked because of the challenge behind him. Nelson Piquet of Brazil still leading the German Grand Prix here at Hockenheim in his BMW-powered Brabham. Alain Prost of France in his tag turbo-powered McLaren, still in second place. A tremendous battle at the front of this race between the reigning world champion and the current championship leader. Keke Rosberg in the yellow driving suit out of the race, his Williams Honda having blown its engine. There's Joe Gartner, the Austrian, who's running well down the field. He's got a smoking engine as well. And as Alain Prost continues to pursue Nelson Piquet, the race is being run at such a pace that, as often happens here at Hockenheim, these long straights, long periods of high revs for the engine, a very hot, humid day, several cars are finding the toll too much for their mechanicals. That's Joe Gartner with fire extinguishers being sprayed on the back of the car, so obviously his engine failure has actually resulted in a fire. And the leaders have now lapped the only non-turbocharged car in the race. That's the third car of the trio in the picture. Stefan Johansson, the Swede, with the Tyrrell. Niki Lauda there in third place. So you got a glimpse of the gap between second man Alain Prost, number 7 McLaren, and third man Niki Lauda in number 8 McLaren. And Lauda does all the time seem to be closing the gap. Michele Alboreto back in the pits. Obviously the work they did on the Ferrari wasn't enough to cure the misfire, so it looks as though Alboreto's race is run. He's certainly lost a lot of time, although he is still in the car. Perhaps they can get him back in the race. And Piquet seems to have made up some ground on Alain Prost. As the Brabham comes out of the third chicane, Prost is barely going into it with the McLaren, and if you look through the heat haze shimmering up behind the Brabham's rear wing, you can see that the gap from Piquet to Prost is very much greater. There is Niki Lauda in third place, very much closer to his teammate. So whatever happened there, perhaps Prost missed a gear, perhaps he got a bit sideways on one of the chicanes. Somewhere he seems to have lost a bit of ground. Here is Derek Warwick, who's still in fourth place. Teo Fabi behind him is still fifth with Brabham number 2. So Brabham's are first and fifth. Warwick, without the pressure from behind that he had to cope with, first from Ayrton Senna, then from Niki Lauda, seems to be able to cope with Teo Fabi, the number 2 Brabham driver, because Fabi not getting close enough to Warwick to make any impression. Fabi, incidentally, who was trying to do North American kart racing and Formula One this year, was spending most of his life commuting between Europe and America on consecutive weekends. He's now finally decided that that's too much, and he's in Formula One for good. And that is Nigel Mansell going all the way round the outside of the Sachs Curva. Oh, a very close manoeuvre indeed there. The man in the red Ferrari, René Arnoux, I think was quite taken by surprise. Arnoux, who was 7th, suddenly got that challenge from Nigel Mansell. Mansell is now 7th in the Lotus. Arnoux demoted to 8th. And we're back now with Derek Warwick. And once again, Warwick pulling out just perhaps a little tiny bit from the pursuing Brabham of Teo Fabi. Still Nelson Piquet out in front, and Piquet perhaps able to relax a little bit at the front of the field because Prost suddenly doesn't look able to challenge him. That's Thierry Boutson's Arrows parked by the side of the road, who's already retired, and there you see the gap, 3 seconds Piquet to Prost, 5.7 seconds Prost to Lauda. Lauda in the third chicane, so neat, so tidy. There's Piquet, there is Prost, there is Niki Lauda. That's the first 3. The yellow car behind, Winkelhock's ATS, which has been lapped, and it's still Derek Warwick in the Renault in 4th place. Still Teo Fabi in 5th place, Patrick Tombé's Renault 6th, Nigel Mansell charging up in 7th place. In the Sachs Curva once again, and out of it for Niki Lauda. That downhill bumpy apex of the Opel Curva. Out of that Opel Curva, and as Piquet, the leader, goes through the right-hander that leads out of the stadium, Prost follows him, and there now is Lauda. And I think Prost has closed that gap once again on Piquet. Of course, the foreshortening of the telephoto lens is a bit confusing, but I believe, in fact, as they come up into the chicane, Prost is suddenly very, very close. Can Piquet be in trouble? that little lead that Nelson Piquet had built up has suddenly been eaten up by Prost. Lauda's done another quick lap, 1:53.9, just a fraction quicker than his earlier fastest lap. But I think Piquet is losing ground. And in fact, he's lost the lead. Alain Prost has gone through. Nelson Piquet is reduced to second place. It's McLaren first. Piquet is now second. It's McLaren third. Alain Prost leads the race. What is the trouble with Nelson Piquet? There goes Lauda. Ahead of Lauda, the car with Parmalat on its wing is the former leader, Nelson Piquet. Don't worry about the caption. That was at the end of this previous lap. But I think Nelson Piquet is in bad trouble. Niki Lauda following through, charging up. There's the new leader, number 7, Alain Prost. And here comes Niki Lauda going ahead of Nelson Piquet. McLaren passes Brabham. It's McLaren first and second. Niki Lauda, the new second man. And Nelson Piquet simply had to move across and let him by. Whatever the trouble is with Nelson Piquet, he is demoted to third place. More news of the German Grand Prix after this short message. Drama here at the German Grand Prix because the leader, Nelson Piquet, has lost his lead. He's lost second place. He's now coasting slowly into the pits. We don't know what the problem is. Oh, but he's moving his finger round in a circle. That means to the mechanics, change the tyres. Now, he's coming with a dead engine, but the mechanics have obeyed his signal. They've gone into action. A high-speed tyre change. It's taken 9.5 seconds to change the tyres, and Piquet's getting out. I think that was Piquet playing a joke on his mechanics, because clearly his race was run. He came in with a dead engine, giving every impression of a man who had already decided to retire from the race. But then he gave that little signal, and the mechanics had to rush into action to change the tyres. And there's a grin on Piquet's face. I think he's already resigned himself to the retirement, and he just decided to give the mechanics a little bit of work to do. That's typical of the sort of practical joke that the Brazilian likes to play from time to time. He is now telling the mechanics what's gone wrong. We're guessing up here it was gearbox, because as he went past us, just having lost the lead, his engine was still strong, but we think that as he lost speed on the long straight, it could well be that he was unable to get the car into top gear. And of course here at Hockenheim, that's a very serious problem, because so much of the running is in top gear. And he is out of the race. We've got McLaren first, McLaren second. Here is the new leader, number 7, the current championship leader. After more points today, it's Alain Prost of France with Niki Lauda of Austria, his teammate in the McLaren team, in second place. They've got a Ligier ahead of them. That is De Cesaris with the Renault-powered Ligier. His own teammate, De Cesaris' own teammate, the Frenchman François Hainaut, is not far behind. So as Prost laps De Cesaris, Lauda laps François Hainaut, and Prost through the Opel Curva over the brow, just as his teammate Lauda comes out of the Sachs curve. Now, are we going to see, there's Lauda, a glimpse of him behind, so you get an idea of the gap between the leader, the two red and white cars. Lauda in the picture now in second place. This could well be interesting. Are we going to see Lauda pursuing Prost and trying to wrest the lead from him? They are both teammates, but they are 1.5 points apart in the World Championship, and Niki Lauda, a very determined man, the oldest and wiliest of Grand Prix campaigners. Well, that's not quite true, because Jacques Lafitte's the oldest, but more experienced perhaps than almost any other driver for Niki Lauda, the man who won the World Championship in 1975 and 1977, had that horrendous accident at the Nürburgring which burned him badly in 1976. There is Lauda now lapping De Cesaris. Lauda came back after that accident, won another World Championship title. That was 77. He then suddenly announced that he decided there were more things in life to driving around in circles, and he was going to give up Grand Prix racing altogether and go and run an airline in his native Austria. He did exactly that. Here he is in number 8 through the third chicane. He went to run his airline in Austria and then decided that the lure of motor racing was too much, came back into Grand Prix racing in 1983, joined the Ron Dennis-run McLaren team. A great scoop for Ron Dennis to get Niki Lauda into the team. That was partnering John Watson. This year he's partnering Alain Prost, and McLaren have had a tremendously successful season this year. They're currently leading the Constructors' Championship by a very wide margin, and they're currently first and second in the German Grand Prix. So, will Prost simply be able to relax with his own teammate behind? Will the team orders hung out on the pit signals as they pass that pit lane there? Will the pit signals say, hold your position, Derek Warwick in third place is a long way back, or will they have a true battle between the two of them for the maximum championship points? There you see the gap back to Warwick, and it's 23 points from Niki Lauda, 23 seconds from Niki Lauda back to Derek Warwick, and 4 seconds at this point between Prost and Lauda. Remember, Lauda was some 11 seconds behind Prost earlier on, so Lauda with a couple of fastest laps under his belt so far. That's Teo Fabi, that's the other Brabham, and once again the Brabham mechanics go into action to give him a fresh set of tyres in case that's the problem, but it's not the problem. Teo Fabi undoes his seatbelts, levers himself out of the cockpit, both Brabhams out, and here are both McLarens at the front of the race. Number 7, Alain Prost. Number 8, Niki Lauda. Derek Warwick still in third place. And with the retirement of Teo Fabi, who was fourth, it's now Warwick's own teammate, Patrick Tambay, who moves back into fourth place. So it's McLaren 1 and 2, it's Renault 3 and 4, and the man that we had to watch out for, Nigel Mansell, has continued his march up the field, because Nigel Mansell in Lotus number 12 is now in 5th place, ahead of René Arnoux in the sole surviving Ferrari. Alboreto in the other Ferrari, after all those pit stops to try to cure his misfiring, has now finally called it a day. And a lap down on the leaders, in 7th and 8th places, are the two Ligier Renaults, driven by Andrea de Cesaris and François Hainaut, and that's Eddie Cheever, the American Eddie Cheever, now out of the race. A quick look at the back of the car, and Cheever walks away. Yet again, the Alfa Romeo has let him down. Cheever, a quick man, but so often out of luck mechanically, and still these two McLaren much longer. And I think Niki Lauda has clearly decided that the sensible thing for him to do is to settle for a strong second place. He's not going to do the ungentlemanly thing and fight with his own teammate for the lead. That's Manfred Winkelhock, the German, the BMW-powered ATS. Winkelhock, having made a pit stop, he's got some fresh tyres, back into the race, but he's well down. Winkelhock now running in 11th place, near the tail of the field. And there is Prost at the front of the field. And we've got another caller at the pits. It's the Swede Stefan Johansson with the Tyrrell. So the action's still continuing. Join us after this short break for the conclusion of the German Grand Prix. The German Grand Prix enters its final laps, and still out in front, driving a superbly clean and tidy race, following the retirement of his closest challenger Nelson Piquet, is the current World Championship leader Alain Prost of France, with the red and white McLaren with the tag turbo engine. And to make McLaren team boss Ron Dennis doubly happy, in second place it's Prost's teammate Niki Lauda in McLaren number 8. Lauda did get to within 4 seconds of Alain Prost at one stage, but he's now dropped back to a comfortable 11-second cushion, and so Prost knows that all he's got to do is to reel off the laps, and 9 lovely championship points will be his. In third place, it's Derek Warwick with the Renault, but it's no longer Renault's third and fourth, because the hard-charging Nigel Mansell, who's been carving steadily away at every car in front of him, has now passed Patrick Tambay and put the Lotus number 12 in fourth place. So British drivers Warwick and Mansell in third and fourth places, Patrick Tambay is fifth, and in sixth place, now a lap behind on the leader, it's the Ferrari of René Arnoux. A splendid battle going on for 7th and 8th places between those two Ligiers. So while the McLarens at the front aren't battling between each other, the Ligiers of de Cesaris and Francois Hainaut are indeed battling. And although the rain, which threatened at the start of this race, has held off, Hockenheim has lived up to its reputation of being a car breaker. These long straights with long periods of peak revs for the engines have given us several engine blow-ups, notably Elio De Angelis, the early leader. And we've had confirmation from the pits that the trouble with Nelson Piquet's car, the man who took over the lead just after Elio De Angelis' engine had blown, the trouble was indeed, as we had guessed, gearbox. So Piquet out with a failed gearbox, De Angelis out with a blown engine, Teo Fabi in the other Brabham is also out with turbocharger failure, Michele Alboretti's Ferrari out with misfiring, Ayrton Senna, the Brazilian, had that dramatic accident with the Tolman when his rear wing came adrift at a very awkward moment, like when he was just hitting the brakes at 170 miles an hour to turn into one of the chicanes. Senna completely unhurt, although the back end of the Tolman was badly damaged. Both the Williams Hondas out with engine failure. Bad luck indeed for Keke Rosberg, who was charging up through the field so well, and his teammate Jacques Lafitte also suffered the same fate. Both the Arrows are out, of Marc Surer and Thierry Boutsen, the Belgian. And as you just saw, still running is the Dutchman Hugh Brottengatter in the Spirit, because the leader Alain Prost has just lapped him once again. And both the McLarens looking very, very clean and very smooth indeed. There is the second one, so you see the length of the lead that Alain Prost has over Niki Lauda. 2 laps now to go as Prost comes into the first of the 3 chicanes, and as before, Prost looking so neat, so tidy, and he's under no pressure at all now, of course. His own teammate in second place, Derek Warwick in a distant third place, and as Prost comes into the second chicane that leads onto the Ostkurve, just a little clip of the apex there, round out of the Ostkurve, on now down the short straight where he'll get up to 190 miles an hour, 10.2 seconds, the official gap at the end of the previous lap between Prost and Lauda, past the braking marker boards, into the third chicane. Out of the third chicane comes Alain Prost, down the final little straight, which will lead him in 5th gear up to 185 miles an hour before he hits the brakes, down to 4th, down to 3rd, across to the left of the road before turning right into the Agit Curve, which leads him into the sight of these huge packed grandstands, and then the Sachs Curve, the tight left-hander, which is the sharpest corner on the circuit, taken in 2nd gear at 55 miles an hour, up to about 90 miles an hour here in 3rd gear on that downhill, uphill, bumpy apexed corner of the Opel Curve, the short straight. He'll glance across at the McLaren pit to read his pit signals, which will tell him there is 1 lap now to go, into the right-hander in 4th gear now that leads Alain Prost onto the final lap of the German Grand Prix, and he'll be just round that curve at the top of the picture, touching 190 miles an hour in top gear before he dabs the brakes down to 4th, harder onto the brakes into 3rd, point at the big polystyrene block before he turns the car sharply across into the chicane, and he is definitely taking it gently. You could see as he came through that chicane there, he has eased right off. So while the gap was 10 seconds, all he wants to do is to make sure that the race is his. He's now in the Ostkurve chicane, 70 miles an hour through here. Once again, a very cautious line, and he is just stroking home round the Ostkurve, 4th gear, about 140 miles an hour before he takes 5th gear now, up to 190, 195 miles an hour perhaps, but I don't think he's going quite that quickly on this final lap. And look how close Niki Lauda's got to him, into the 3rd and final chicane. and there is Prost, and Niki Lauda is in sight behind. Niki Lauda has closed to a gap, I would guess, of about 4 seconds now. I don't think Alain Prost's in trouble. I think he just wants to make absolutely sure that victory in the 1984 German Grand Prix is his. Already 12 wins under his belt for Alain Prost. This is going to be his 30th victory, and incidentally it's going to be his 4th victory this year, because he won 2 early Grand Prix this season. He won the race-shortened Monaco Grand Prix. He's going to win now the German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. Out of the Opel Curva, the checkered flag waits for him as he comes down the start-finish straight for the last time. Niki Lauda, his teammate, is behind, and Alain Prost of France consolidates his World Championship lead with a superb win here in the German Grand Prix. Niki Lauda finishes second. Derek Warwick will be third in the Renault. There is Warwick taking the finishing flag now. In 4th place it's going to be Nigel Mansell. Patrick Tambay is 5th. René Arnoux, a lap behind, is 6th in the Ferrari. But McLarens are 1st and 2nd for the 2nd time this season, and the winner is Alain Prost of France. Well, that will make McLaren almost completely unbeatable in the Constructors' Championship, but in the World Championship, Prost only 4.5 points ahead of his own teammate Niki Lauda. Elio De Angelis is still 3rd. Derek Warwick now 5th behind René Arnoux. We'll be back with a word from the race winner after this short message.
Alain Prost in his 4th win here at Hockenheimring. Alain, were you concerned by any other drivers, Nelson Piquet or Elio De Angelis?
Yes, because they were in front of me, but I did a choice of tires that I could not do beginning of the race very quickly, like Niki, and we chose these tires, and we said before the race, okay, we do the race like that, but the first 20 laps we are very gentle with the tires, so I did not want to push very hard. I didn't want to try to catch Nelson and De Angelis, but they had some problems after that, so I had no problem.
So you were just saving your car, waiting to see what happened to them?
Saving the tires, especially the tires.
Now, Niki started to catch you in one point. You broke the lap record, he broke the lap record, and then you broke the lap record. Were you able to pull that much out of your car and tires that late in the race? I mean, it was only 15 laps to go, and there you are breaking the lap record.
I mean, I was 4 or 5 seconds ahead Niki, and he tried to push very hard, and I had to push in the same time because I wanted to win absolutely this race. And I tried to push very hard for 4 or 5 laps, and I went from 5 to 10 seconds. And after that, I think Niki didn't try to push, and I think it was a safe decision for him and for me and for all the team, because like that we had no problems about the fuel consumption, and I think it was a safe decision. It was a very good decision, professional decision for himself.
So you could drive as hard as you wanted towards the end with the fuel, no problem?
Yeah, we can drive as hard as we want, but maybe not until the end. So we have to be careful the last 10 laps. That's why Niki didn't try to push me hard for the last 10 laps.
And a great competition within the team between the two of you.
It's a great competition, but it's very nice competition. I like to fight with Niki because he's very honest. We try to do the same choice of tires to be the same at the beginning of the race. The only problem today for me was I had to start with the T car because my race car, the problem is the fuel pump. Otherwise, it's a nice competition with Niki. We get the same car, and we are in the best team at the moment. It's
well, there again, to start a race with a T car, I mean, that's the training car. It's not your normal car. Yesterday you told us about the confidence in the team. This must, again, prove to you that McLaren is right on top of everything.
Yes, exactly. That proves that it's not exactly a T car, it's a 3rd car. And we can take this car and we have no problem with it. It's always difficult for me because I had very bad luck 2 weeks ago in Brandsatch. So starting with the car was a big deception for me because my race car was perfect. But I must say that this car was able to win the race anyway. That's good. That proves that McLaren can build 3 very good cars.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
This has been John Bizignano and Simon Taylor. We've enjoyed bringing you this ESPN coverage of the German Grand Prix. Thank you for watching us. Please watch your local listings for more ESPN Auto Racing 84 as we move from the center of Germany to the Midlands of Austria and the Austrian Grand Prix, about 600 miles southeast of here. Be with us. Auf Wiedersehen from Hockenheimring.